With TSD Talks.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Pillar of Garbage podcast with me, Pillar of Garbage. And sadly, TSD couldn't make it today, but I did manage to get the person I originally pitched this to, the original pick for co-host. He was a bit too busy beforehand, but he's, a lot of time has opened up for him recently. He thought he'd be doing a lot more in the coming months before, but he's kind of wide open now. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome President of the United States, Joe Biden. How are you doing, Joe?
Oh God, I have to prep my Joe Biden impression now. He sprung this on me. Well, in America, it's going really well. I've had a lot of free time on my space. Yeah, folks, I have a fucking terrible impression. But it's been really nice.
Have you had any ice cream recently, Joe?
I've had a lot of ice cream. I announced my intends to drop out of the race on National Ice Cream Day in America. A lot of people don't know that. This is not a bit that I'm doing right now. That's real. You can look it up. I'm being 100% serious, even though I'm doing the Joe Biden impression. It was legitimately.
Are you being for real with me, Joe? Or is this malarkey?
This is no malarkey. This is no malarkey that I'm telling you right now. What is malarkey is the electoral process. The reason I dropped out is I'm turning into Larry King. The reason I dropped out is that the electoral college has been bothering me, Pillar. It's been bothering me, so I'm moving over to Europe, so where they have the monarchy. The monarchy means a lot to me. I remember when the monarchy meant something, because I remember Queen Elizabeth being coronated, because I'm old enough to remember that. I'm so fucking old.
Guys, I think he's sundowning, guys.
I'm so fucking old.
All right, Joe. Yeah, Joe, better get you. Here's your blanket. Why don't you go and have a lie down, and I'll check with TSD to see if he can make it back late notice. Take it easy, Joe.
Thank you very much. I gotta call Donald on this. I spoke with Donald. He's been recovering very well from his horribly traumatic ear injury.
Well, thanks for dropping by. Hey, TSD, you there? You around?
Yeah. Was that a President Joe Biden in the recording studio just now that we have the recording studio?
Yeah, and I think the record will attest he was remarkably put together and cogent with his remarks.
Yeah, he's got a lot. He's had a lot let off his mind recently, so that makes sense.
Yeah, that was a stupid bit. Yeah, well, so TSD, we're kind of in a new era with the podcast because not only can I blather on about my videos now, you can blather on about yours.
That's right, because as something I've been talking about since literally the beginning of this podcast starting, I finally fucking released my X-Men video. It would turn out to be nearly 3 hours, which I was not expecting. Holy shit. It was supposed to be an hour long when I first conceptualized the project. That did not end up panning out. So
that's the way these things go sometimes. Yeah.
But I've been really, really happy about it because if you're listening to this podcast, you probably have seen it already because holy shit, it's gotten such a good response. Let me pull up YouTube Studio right now. It's got
you're in Green Arrow country.
I am swimming in green arrows right now. Let me tell you. It's got nearly 3,000 views right now. It's got 2,900 to be exact. It's got I've got a huge click-through rate. CTR is 2.7, and my average view duration is 30 minutes. 30 minutes is the average, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's pretty big. Even because if you have a shorter video, it's more common to have a higher percentage. But as the video gets longer and longer, then it's more normal for that percentage to kind of drop down. So I'm sure people like Jenny Nicholson or H Bomber Guy, their average view duration, it's not going to be nowhere near the 4-hour mark of those videos. So
right, like most people aren't sitting down.
30 minutes average view duration is pretty massive. Like regardless of video length, that's a good achievement.
I've got 1,500 hours of watch time on this 2,000. That's like I've got half the view count. You just divide that in half, and that's the number that you have for hours of watch time. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of joked about when we were working on this about maybe one day it'll get, like, blow up super big and get like millions of views or whatever. I was never legitimately expecting that, but this is pretty damn big for me. Like,
and like it's not gonna ever gonna like grind to a halt either, because the algorithm's gonna see, okay, the people who watched this, they watched a lot of it. So like every time there's anything remotely X-Men adjacent trending going forward, you're just gonna get a few more kind of wheelbarrows of views chucked on that pile. Yeah,
and like it's slowed down in the last like 12 hours or so, but like before that it was huge, and it's still getting a lot right now.
Yeah.
But man, it has been such a, and the thing is, and you know what the other thing is that people have been liking it too. Like, I know you watched it already, and you said that you liked it, but there was like people in your server, in my server, have been watching it, and they've been like independently telling me, "Hey, this is a great video," and the comments have been really good on it. You know, apart from a few, which we can get to, because I actually now have comments
later,
for Comment Corner that aren't 6 months old, but. I'm so happy with how this is going. This is like the best possible outcome I could have hoped for. Like there was like I was having legitimately before this released, and the days before this released, like after I had finished, but before it had come out, I was having like nightmares about it just like absolutely fucking tanking. Which would have been, would not have been the end of the world, but like would have been a pretty big blow to my ego and to
it's
my
still bad.
self-esteem.
I've had those kind of stress streams before, for sure.
But oh man, my Gambit. I guess it turns out that releasing a 3-hour video about the X-Men like 2 days before the first X-Men movie in like 4 years even, and 5 years, I can't count, 5 years since the last movie that has the X-Men in it, and I want to say 7 years since the last movie with Wolverine in it. It turns out that pays off.
No, I think it's 6. I think Logan was 2018.
Logan was 2017. Maybe. I have them.
I mean, you
burned.
would know. You've been immersed in the
I've been lost in the X-Men sauce for the last like 3 months. I have so much.
Yeah.
I know so much more about this franchise than I ever expected to know.
Real.
Like something I put a lot of work into, the theatrics of it. If you guys haven't seen it, I won't spoil it, but go watch it. It's really good. We could probably like do like a semi-spoiler talk in a little bit, but
yeah.
It's got this segment that I put a lot of work into. That's not just me sitting on my bed talking about the movies. That's also like more theatrical and like adding a bit more. It's kind of like channeling the energy of like those old Nostalgia Critic videos where he like saves the universe or whatever, but like not, over the top.
Yeah, and it looks good. It's a well put together sequence. Like, I could get a camera. I could try and do conspiracy board sequence plus, the rest of the stuff that you do. And I could try and shoot that and edit it. But like, it just looked like me playing around with some props, because obviously I don't really have the experience with the live action kind of, video making that you sort of do. So like, I want to give you some flowers on that. It's, it's good to watch.
Thank you. I was worried about that section coming off as like, what is it? A bit try hard. Like, I was worried about that it would be like a little like, okay, whatever.
I think it would be if the video were like 20, 30 minutes long.
Yeah.
But since it's a really long video, like the kind of bar for try hardness is kind of raised along with that, I think.
Yeah. And like I purposefully tried to plant seeds for it throughout the video, so it doesn't just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm so happy with how this is turning out. I'm tired though.
Yeah.
Like I kind of put a little bit pressure on myself. I did not do the same thing I did with the Star Wars video, where I just like basically killed myself over how much work I was doing with the Star Wars video, and like I
Yeah.
had like no energy for videos for like a month after that. But I did put a bit more pressure on myself to finish it as in the last like week or so before it came out, because I wanted it to come out before the Deadpool movie.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling that a little bit, and I am going to be taking a bit of a break. What I said in my Discord, I think, was I'm going to be taking a week-long break after this video's release before I even think about starting my next one, because I just want to have a little bit of time just to like relax and bask in this.
Yeah. No, I I envy that a bit, because I mean, I've not put out a 3-hour video, but I've been, ever since the Bircham video started doing well like a month ago, I've been kind of like, because the thing about YouTube is, when the numbers are bad, if you're doing it as like a pro or a semi-pro thing, and you're not like, you don't have a bunch like a whole ton of Patreon people, when the numbers are bad, you gotta work a lot to try and push them back into being good. And when they're good, you've got to work a lot to make the most of that. So I've kind of been grinding this month, and I mean, like, again, the videos are shorter, but this new Deadpool one I did, which isn't doing great so far. I think I could have done well to put. If that could have been released before the movie like yours was, that probably would have been better, because I think one of the related cloud of reasons people aren't clicking on it so much is because maybe they think it's spoilers, and it's not.
Yeah. Mine started to slow down yesterday around the time it was like most people were seeing it in the US, so people might have who are seeing it now might start thinking that as well. But that just means that like in like, you know, in the next few days, it'll probably start picking back up again as more and more people have seen it.
Yeah, I did have mine done technically before the film came out, but I had to get sponsor approval, and that took a little bit of time, and it kind of just pushed it over there. Yeah. But yeah, like, I mean, that video is only 27 minutes, which isn't short.
It's a good video. I ended up watching it yesterday.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought it turned out all right. But it took a lot to do, like, you know, less time actively writing and editing. But I was reading so many comic books for that this whole month. It's just been like
all of Deadpool's like mainline title ones, you know. Like, I know there are already people in the comments being like, "Oh, you didn't read all of them."
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. But yeah, no, I mean, I was kind of saying to myself, I need some time off after this month, because, you know, I've only put out 3 videos this month technically, but like, I've not had any time off. Like, there have been a few weekends I've not done work on in the past few months, but other than that, I've not had any time off since like January. And I was kind of thinking to myself, yeah, I'll sort of chill out next week, because I've kind of been grinding. Yeah. But I'm realizing now I've forgotten about some stuff I got to do personally in August, and also if this Deadpool video doesn't pick up, I don't think I've got time to have time off, which is kind of weird. So I'm kind of
Well, you gotta make some time off for yourself at some point. Like you can't. Yeah. You like, don't let yourself crash and burn, because you're gonna burn out at some point, and it's better to take a break when you choose to do so, and not take a break because you have to.
Yeah. I mean, I know in my head that's right.
Yeah, but it feels so hard to not work.
But the thing is, TSD, in my head, like, so I've got these scales, and on the one hand, your words of wisdom, which I know to be true logically, are sitting, you know, kind of bringing the scales down a touch. But then on the other hand, I've got the YouTube gray arrows.
Oh God, the gray arrows.
Which one of those do you think is weighing down more?
Just think it. The way I think about it is just like, have like a. You should have taken a break after the Bertram video, I think, or one of them. Like after the second Bertram video.
I think I should have taken a break after the second one.
Yeah.
And let them just kind of cook, you know.
Yeah, just
let the algorithm get them out of their systems, because that's one of the reasons the other two haven't. I think it's just been showing all the stuff I've done since to the Bertram viewers, and there's not the overlap there.
Yeah, I have been thinking about that for this video though, for my X-Men one, about what I want to do next after this.
Yeah, because if it's not X-Men related, like, I think you would be best to just let this one kind of
sit for a little bit. But I was thinking
Yeah, for sure.
I might, so because the X-Men video was supposed to be the finale of of like the retrospective series I've been working on for the last
Yeah.
year and a half or so. But there's a couple more in that, movies that I wanted to cover as part of that. Like
Yeah.
I wanted to do a video about the Daredevil and Elektra movies, and also,
Okay. Yeah, that could be fun.
and also a video about the Blade trilogy. And then after that, I'm done. I think with that series.
Yeah.
But I might also do Howard the Duck as like a finale. But
Yeah.
after that, I kind of wanna do this project again, but with DC.
That would be good, yeah. And like, I think there would be like a ramp up there for the audience as well that have come in with these ones as well.
Yeah. Like I kind of want to, like, I'm not gonna not do other stuff, but I do kind of want to lean more into like the comic book movie niche a little. It's not a niche, I guess, but
Well, no, I think it is.
yeah, whatever. The niche in the sense of not that it is niche, but in the sense that it is a niche that
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Because I was looking at because so this my Deadpool video hasn't started off great, and I on one hand I thought I put it out at a good time. I thought it was pretty good and it was long and I thought it would do well. But then I went and I checked, and barring the X-Men videos I did a couple of months ago, which I kind of also embroiled in the kind of right-wing people are being weird, woke panic discourse niche, which is a niche unto itself for sure. Like, apart from those, it's been like a year since I've done a video on a Marvel film or like a Marvel property that hasn't underperformed. And I think, because for the longest time I was trying to break out of YouTube only pushes my videos when they're about superheroes. I was trying to break out of that.
You kind of cursed yourself.
I sort of did. Yeah, and now I can't go back in. You know, I'm not the master of both worlds.
That's too bad. I still like your Marvel stuff, so you should still keep making them because of my declare. But if you want to lean away from that, you can as well.
I've got a lot of the tricky thing is I've got a lot of really cool ideas I want to do, but in the kind of faceless format where you're editing mostly with clips and stuff, a lot of my kind of pie in the sky video ideas are going to be a lot harder to pull off. And they're going to be a lot more kind of risky as well. So I think maybe that's something I'll try out over the next few months. I'll see how it goes, but who knows?
Yeah. But I was thinking about this plan thing of what if I did like one of these big 2 to 3 hour like bunch of different movies retrospectives every year. And
oh yeah,
I was thinking
that could be good.
If I did that, what I could do. Because Superman is coming out a year from now in July next year.
Oh yeah,
so
you got the plans in motion.
I could do a bunch of DC stuff and lead them all up to the Superman movies. And because I was looking at it, and if I include the Snyderverse, like if I include Man of Steel, obviously, but also Batman v Superman and Justice League, both versions of Justice League, that's like 9 movies right there. Like not the Snyderverse, but like there's like the 4 Reeve movies, and then there's Superman Returns, and I can't think of. There's got to be something else, but I can't remember. It's not coming to my mind. But there's at least 9 right there.
Yeah.
And I guess I could also cover the Supergirl movies in that, or a Supergirl movie. I think there's only one.
If you really wanted to, you could dip into TV.
Oh God.
There's a lot of super noun TV.
That's a whole other rabbit hole. I don't think I'm willing to jump down because like I'd have to watch.
Entirely fair.
Like I've been really enjoying Superman and My Adventures with Superman, and I think I'd really like Superman and Lois from the bits I've seen of it. But I do not want to watch a 4-season show as a part of as a small part of like a much longer video.
Yeah.
But maybe I could do like a part 2 Superman that's like the TV shows. I don't know. I've this promising to do part 2s with TV shows has always gone well for me in the past. But then the thing is that Superman isn't like the end all be all of the DC movies though, right? Because like the big guy is Batman. He's got more movies than Superman for sure. Like I don't even have to check that. Like I just know that he's got more movies than Superman.
Yeah.
So I guess I could also build up to that in 2026 when the
Is that one the next one's coming
the
out?
Batman Part 2.
Oh, right, that one. Okay. I don't know. I got my Batman movies mixed up.
I don't know when Brave and the Bold is coming out, but I think Batman Part 2 is coming out in 26. So, which is wild because that'll mean it'll have been 4 years since the first one when it comes out.
Speaking of Elseworldsy Batman things, can I throw a hot take out there?
Sure.
So the new Joker trailer's come out, right?
I have not watched it.
Exactly, me neither. I realized when it came out that I don't give a shit about these Joker films. Like, the first one was fine. It was fine, I think.
Yeah.
It was just the king of comedy, but like the Joker. And now they're like, he's saying, oh, the Joker's not going to be, he's never going to be the Gotham Prince of Crime or whatever. And like, I don't really feel strongly either way on that. I'm not like, oh, what are you doing? He's got to be the clown Prince of Crime. And I'm not like, yeah, let it be its own thing. I'm just thinking like, what are these films beyond that first film? Because that was,
I think that from what I've seen of
it was a fine film. Yeah.
From what I've seen, the second one has a chance to build its own identity outside of just being like, the king of comedy, but with DC paint slapped on it.
Yeah.
Because like it seems what they're doing seems interesting based off the one trailer I've seen. It doesn't necessarily seem good, but at the very it could be good. I'm not saying it's not going to be good, but it does seem like interesting that this is the path they chose to go down, where like they're making it a musical.
For me, the first film is a better film than it is interesting. So if the second film does flip that the other way around, maybe I'm invested again. But I feel like I saw that first film and I was like, okay, I get the hype, I get why people are liking this. This is kind of all right. This is an all right time. And then I've had precisely zero thoughts about it ever since.
But Pillar, it was like the highest grossing R-rated movie for a long. Like it's not going to be anymore after this week because Deadpool is going to break that. That I will be very surprised if Deadpool Wolverine does not break that record. But for a long time, it was the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time. And that's wild to me because it had like an impact on like meme culture for a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's Avatar syndrome, right?
I don't know if it's Avatar syndrome, but like, because like the Avatar syndrome is like such a bigger, like a more.
I guess it had more cultural impact than Avatar
did. The ratio isn't quite as inverse, but
no.
I think it just goes to show that like a lot of movies that have that make a lot of money don't always have huge cultural impact. Like,
yeah, or maybe they have impact but not staying power.
Yeah, like think about like Avengers Endgame. Like. That definitely had like cultural impact at the time. Like that was
for sure.
But like,
I think it's still like a kind of it's like a cinematic landmark. People aren't necessarily going back to it. It's not like a deep well, but I think the mark it's made has remained there, even if people are sort of less bothered about the mark.
Endgame is like, I feel like it's much better as I'm probably just like speaking out loud what a lot of people think, but I think Endgame is a lot better as a cultural moment than it is as a movie. Like, yeah,
and it's also better as a finale than it is as a movie.
Yeah, because like if you just look at it as just a movie, it's like I'm not like if I hadn't seen like obviously.
No, I'm with you.
Obviously, if I hadn't seen all these, I wouldn't.
I think it's a decent movie, but like it's not a fantastic movie.
And my thing is also that it feels like it kind of ruined a lot of the character work that other directors have been working on for their Marvel characters, by putting them in a position where they weren't going to. This is a criticism of Infinity War as well too. It's like the whole event, but I'd like to call it the As Guardians of the Galaxy syndrome, because think about the ending of Endgame. They set up like Thor and the Guardians of the Galaxy teaming up and like becoming the As Guardians of the Galaxy as this next big thing, and then immediately they drop it.
And then it happens entirely off screen. Yeah,
they immediately drop it in Thor: Love and Thunder, and then Guardians 3 does not even mention Thor at all. Like, because both Taika Waititi and James Gunn, in varying degrees, just did not want to do that. They're like, no.
But I think also that it's interesting because there's so many ways in which the MCU tends toward the cinematic over the comic book. But that's kind of something you see in the comic books as well. Like, just recently, I don't know if you know TSD, but I've read a lot of Deadpool comic books.
What?
Deadpool Volume 8, I think, is Kelly Thompson, maybe? If it's not, then someone correct me down below. I think it was a good little run of, I think, like 10 issues, and something was being built up And it was pretty well done. Like it's kind of fun. Like so the premise of this is Deadpool accidentally becomes king of the monsters. Like a bunch of monsters take over Staten Island, and Deadpool kills their king, and now Deadpool's king of the monsters.
Oh,
and
that's
it's like,
fun.
okay, that's kind of fun. And he's kind of he's kind of teaming up and having a bit of a kind of flirtatious will they won't they kind of thing with Elsa Bloodstone, and that actually works really well. There's a lot of chemistry, and it's brought out quite well. Like the kind of the edges of those characters kind of interlock quite nicely. I just hit my mic. Sorry about that. And it's building up to a thing, and like you see in the issues that sort of the culmination of this story arc is being teased. Like there's a cult of like there's like a monster cult trying to bring back some ancient monster or something, but then we get to the end, and oh no, it's the King in Black. There was this big because Marvel does this every I don't know year or so. There's like a big event that ripples over all the big individual series, and they have tie-in events and stuff, and all that kind of gets thrown out so they can do a King in Black tie-in, which was fine. But then also that book got, I don't know if it was supposed to run longer and it got cancelled. I think maybe this was around COVID, so maybe it was gonna get cut short anyway. But like, it got cut short, and also they couldn't tie up their own thing. They had to go into this big crossover event thing, and it doesn't ruin the volume. It's still a good volume, but you read it and you're like, oh, okay, I was on board with this, and then big crossover thing, all that's gone. We reboot later on, and all of it doesn't pick up again. That's kind of a shame.
That kind of seems like the downside of like a collaborative medium like comics, or like how Marvel's trying to bring it over to the movies. And I don't think it works as well in the movies as it does in comics.
And it didn't even used to be a thing so big in the comics. Like I think you're really only looking in the past 20 years that it's been so kind of regular and wide impacting a thing. Like you'd have,
because there's been like 3 different
events in the
Spider-Verse events in the last 10 years.
Oh yeah.
There's Spider-Verse, and there's like Spider-Geddon and Spider whatever.
Yeah. But like you think back to like in the 90s, they had Onslaught and Heroes Reborn, which was messy, and it was a whole bunch of things, but it didn't really it didn't necessarily ripple out to everyone in Marvel Comics. And it didn't kind of rip up everything in the same way that a lot of the current ones do. Like you have Civil War, then you have Dark Reign, then you have
like House of M and stuff like that.
Whatever was next. Yeah, and it's just it's kind of like the rhythm it's settled into these days. It feels more like something happens, and then people are picking up the pieces and they're starting to put it together into something, and then something else happens, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it was a sales tactic, because another thing that's been in the news recently, I don't know if you saw this, but because obviously I think print comic book sales are flagging a bit, one thing that Marvel is trying to introduce is, and this sounds like a bit, but it's not.
Was it the QR code thing?
Yeah, the QR code thing. So in case anyone listening hasn't heard about this, they're not going to give you the last page in the comic. They're going to like put a QR code on that, and then you read your comic, and then you scan it, and then you can see the ending. And the idea is that they only make the website that QR code links to go live on the day the comic releases, so people who get it early can't spoil it, because that's been happening. And the idea is that maybe stunt sales some. And like, I kind of get that, but also imagine 10 years time you buy,
Yeah, that seems like a recipe
secondhand a bunch of comics. Yeah, and obviously none of these, if you go far enough into the future, these websites aren't going to be there anymore. They'll have either the QR code will have been redirected, or the websites will have gone down, or whatever. So it's just like, it's so short-sighted a thing. And I'm gonna get my big bundle of new comic books. I'm gonna sit in my comfy armchair. I'm gonna read them all. I'm not gonna want to go and get my phone and scan to see the last page on all of them. What is that, man?
Apparently, so I saw some people talking about this in the server, because like everything gets talked about in the server. That's like vaguely comic-related news. Yeah. But apparently, it's not so much that it's ever like the ending of every issue of the comic. It's like only the endings of issue number 1
and stuff, isn't it?
It's only the endings of issue number 1s, apparently. Which is a weird.
I mean, I still don't love that.
Like, it's like, if you're gonna do it, like, I guess I'm not a fan of it overall, so my preference is just not doing it. But like, if you're going to do it,
feels
why?
like a weak compromise.
Yeah, like it kind of feels like a half measure. It kind of feels like a weird like pilot program of like, well, I don't know, are we gonna do that? Blah blah. But I read the first issue of X-Men from the Ashes because now I'm an X-Men. I'm into X-Men a little bit now, so I might as well start reading the comics. And I noticed that QR code thing, but I'm going to be probably not going to follow up on that series for a little bit because I want to take a break from X-Men after I see Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
Because like that's the bandwidth I have left. Like just.
Yeah. I still got a bunch of Deadpool inside my head. I say it in this video, but like, so I need to do a couple of bonus videos this month. I say a couple because announcement, I guess. Well, not that 10 people will care. Announcement. I think I'm going to be able to put the Over the Hedge video out.
Yes.
So basically, what happened? I'll circle back to the Deadpool thing. But what happened there is basically what I was doing was I set up like a dummy YouTube account, and I put the video file through there to try and get it to flag for copyright, because the idea is, and Jose told me this. Jose, the bird guy, he DM'd me on Twitter and he said this. So thanks to him for this. Because the risk I would have on my main channel of trying to like appeal and escalate appeals and stuff like that is if it goes far up enough and they reject it, then I lose a lot of privileges on my channel, like monetization, which would kind of be the death knell, I think. And like, there's no reason they wouldn't reject it. Nothing happens to them if they give false positives. So like, that's always going to be a risk. The idea is if you have a dummy channel, then you can kind of just feel it out a bit, and you can see, if they do false positive flag it there, then so what? Your dummy channel gets the hammer put down on it. That doesn't matter. So you can kind of feel out if they're gonna let it slide or if they're not. And what happened with the Over the Hedge video was it didn't even trigger. Like, it took days for it to trigger as even any copyright material at all. It would have been, which was strange because on my main channel I was uploading it and it was getting tagged right away. But eventually it picked it up, and it blocked it, so I disputed it, and they rejected the dispute. And then I appealed the dispute rejection, and annoyingly, what happened was that expired. So they didn't say yes or no, but the time period expired. So that was kind of annoying to me, because the point of me doing that was to see if they would or wouldn't, and the time period ran out before they did. So I don't know if maybe it would be on my main channel if I appealed the strike, the whatever it's called, the time period would expire and I'd be fine. But I don't know that for sure, so I can't really do it anymore. But here's the weird thing. At some point on my main channel, while I was doing this, or while I was doing all this on the dummy, it switched from being visibility blocked, meaning I couldn't release it at all, to just being demonetized. So now I don't know what happened. At some point, that switched, so I could now release it. I wouldn't earn any money from it, but I could release it. And so I said, when I put it out as a Patreon exclusive, I basically said to the Patreon or YouTube membership guys, like, for the time being, I can't release this widely, so this can be that month's Patreon exclusive or YouTube membership exclusive. And if I can figure out a way to release it more widely, then I kind of owe you a bonus video, right? And I need to do a bonus video in, is it August in next week? Is that what month that is? Yeah. I need to do an August bonus video anyway.
Just need to
so
remember
now if I
what
do
month
manage to
it
put
was.
it Over the Hedge out, I'm so disconnected from the rhythms and the I'm just like a guy in a room, Time's lost all meaning.
Like
but no,
no exit.
Yeah, exactly. I can't remember any of their names.
Oh my god, there's
I read
like
No Exit for a video.
There's like a person with a motorcycle.
I'm Inez.
A motorcycle just like droning right by.
Oh, I thought you were saying in No Exit. I was going to say, I don't remember that part of the play.
Oh.
That would have been
No, yeah. That was a really weird part in like a really contemplative play where just like these three people and then like a guy rides a motorcycle halfway through and then they just keep going as if nothing happens.
I'm Dino, get on my motorcycle. Yeah. Well, basically, yeah, but no, I need to do two bonus videos in August, and I've got so much Deadpool rattling around my head from reading all those comic books that I said in that video that they're probably going to end up being Deadpool ones. So like, I need to kind of lance the boil a bit before I can move on from Deadpool. Whereas you're just kind of able to move on from X-Men right now. He's still in my head. He's still in there. About chimichangas and. Yeah, it's
like
crazy.
in a voice, like a trapped shield agent. He's there.
Yeah, I keep seeing these text boxes. I was saying some horrible things. I can't repeat them on this podcast.
Speaking of horrible things you can't repeat on a podcast.
Yes.
So something else I wanted to mention before we move on to like comment corner and questions and stuff is just that something else that that has been the other main thing that has been on my mind this last week. Are you a fan of Gravity Falls?
I've watched some of the first season.
Okay.
I liked it, but this was, years ago.
Well, okay, so here is my plea to you. Please, for the love of God, at some point, watch all the way through Gravity Falls. It is so good. It's like one of the best shows I've ever seen, and it's a Disney cartoon. And it's short, too. It's only 2 seasons. And it ends. It has like a really good ending and everything, all that. But anyway, so not spoiling too much for you, but the main villain of the show is a character called Bill Cipher, who's looks like a triangle with an eye in the middle and a top hat.
He's the triangle guy, yeah.
But he's
Triangle Abe Lincoln.
Yeah, he's that guy. But the reality is that he's like an interdimensional like entity that's basically, they call him a demon a lot, but he's not literally a demon because it's not like biblical. But he's like a chaos god pretty much.
He's just one of those guys, yeah.
Yeah. And but they defeat him in the finale of the show because spoilers, they defeat the big bad guy in the finale.
Oh my god, you've ruined Gravity Falls for me.
I won't tell you how they do it because it is a twist how they do it. But anyway, point is he's not around anymore, or so we thought, because even though it's been like 8 years since the show ended, the creator of the show, Alex Hirsch, just this I was like a few months ago, he announced that they were making a book called The Book of Bill, which was supposed to be a book written by Bill Cipher after the events of Gravity Falls. And it's like, what? How did that happen? Isn't he, gone? And so I got my copy this week, the same week that I was releasing my X-Men video. So I was reading it on the day that my X-Men video released. And it is like, to all the people who have watched Gravity Falls in the audience, if you haven't got a copy of this book, you need a copy of this book because it is a fucking bombshell in a lot of ways. There's a lot of huge like lore reveals that have been secrets and that people thought they would never learn the answer to because the show was over. And because this is a show to you, Pillar. This is a show that is like built off of like code breaking and ciphers
like
and stuff
Night
like that.
Vale.
Yeah,
Night Vale, the kids Disney Plus show.
Yeah,
not Disney Plus, Disney Channel.
Disney Channel. But the nice thing, but also Gravity Falls is one of those shows that really like to test the limits of the Disney censors.
Yeah.
There's actually a really infamous story about how there are these 2 sheriff characters in the show, Blubbs and Durland, who are in a relationship. Like they are gay for each other, but Alex Hirsch was never allowed to say that on the show, so he tried to be as explicit as he could without getting node by Disney. And then after a couple of years ago, he had a really public spat with Disney's corporate pride thing because he was just like,
I saw that.
So, but anyway, but he liked to push the censors a lot and stuff like that, and you can really see that. And in this book, this is rated as a teen book instead of kids, so he was allowed to push the limits a lot more than he was on the show, and it's cool. Anyway, that's just me gushing about that. I'd love to talk to you more about it if and when you watch the show because it's got some really good stuff in it.
Would you like to hear my response to that?
Sure.
Gravity Falls? I sure hope it does.
That's like a bit
I
in
did
the
have
show.
a observation.
That's like a bit in the show,
Is
though.
it?
There's like a bit where
okay.
his uncle,
Okay.
well, not that
So
specifically.
what we're discovering here is that I'm Alex Hirsch.
There's a bit in the show where their uncle, their great uncle, but they call him Grunkle, Stan, likes to say, "My ex-wife still misses me, but her aim is getting better." And he likes to say that in inappropriate times.
What a Grunkle joke.
Anyway, what was your
before we
observation?
before we head over to comment corner, I did have a. We can spend 5 minutes talking about this observation.
Yeah.
Because I was racking my brains for a observation, and then this one came to me. You know, everyone's always saying like, "Oh, Deadpool and Wolverine's gonna save the MCU. Loki's gonna save the MCU. Captain America: Brave New World's gonna save the MCU."
That
All
one
this
is not
kinda
going to.
talk about saving the MCU. Who knows? But right. So here's the thing. The MCU is beyond saving. That's my observation.
Honestly, I agree.
Yeah, what I mean by that isn't that I don't think there's not going to be good films in the MCU anymore. I think... So, like, I think we're on a similar wavelength in that, like, you know, people talk about the drop-off of the MCU, and obviously, like, to some degree, as a cultural phenomenon, that is a thing. But I think we kind of agree that the average quality of the movies hasn't really dipped, like, that much since compared to, like, 10 years ago. Are we on that? Yeah, we're on that same page.
Like, there's a little bit of a dip, but it's not like this big drop-off that people have been making it out to be, you know? Like, there's, like, some...
No, and personally, I'm not even convinced there is, because... When it was taken over the world, you still had stuff like, you know, I guess Thor: The Dark World is a common one in that era, and there's other ones from Phase 2 and 3 that, you know, in retrospect people kind of like less, and there's only, I mean, you know, if you bring the Disney Plus stuff into this, then I think that there is a dip.
Yeah.
But if you're just thinking about the movies. I don't know. I don't really see it. I think.
Yeah, I was thinking of Secret Invasion when I said there was a dip.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. I'm with you there. But I think so. The main thing I think is people's expectations have risen higher than the film's quality has. But I think we're now at a point, because it's more about perception than reality. I think we're now at a point, when I say the MCU is beyond saving, there is this idea that, you know, it's going to be Deadpool and Wolverine summer, and we just need one or two more good ones after that in a row, and the MCU is going to be back, baby. It's going to be saved. I think the conversation around these films is at the place where it doesn't matter if there's 5 great things in a row. Mm-hmm. The question is going to hang over the next 5 as well, and the moment one of them is a bit of a dud, then we're going to be, you know, it's so Jova all over again. So
yeah.
I think
that
I don't know.
The concept of like a cinematic universe that's like consistently in its quality, but also diverse in its output enough that people don't get sick of seeing the same thing over and over again is just not something that is sustainable for more than maybe 5 years.
Yeah. Always a bit of a bubble.
Yeah, like, because I think that going back to the Endgame thing, like that was like the perfect storm, right? Because like hype had been built up, but in the last like 3 or so years before that, not the last 10 or so years, like some people seem to think. Yeah. It was like 2 or 3 years before before Infinity War came out. It was when that hype train started building up, and then that hype train lasted for like 4 years, and then it kind of was able. Then there was like a period of like 2 years where nothing came out. Where people were kind of able to like sit with the nostalgia of that and the hype of that. I feel like if Marvel had continued like immediately after Endgame, this conversation would have still happened. It might not have happened.
I think we would have been having it a couple of years sooner. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm kind of with you on the thing of like I don't really look favorably upon the MCU as a whole generally. Like I like a lot of the individual projects, but as like a interconnected web, I feel like it's kind of is a bit detrimental to its overall structure, if that makes sense. Like I was saying that I mentioned that the crossover thing and like the Asgardians effect, but I feel like that is something that can be justified more in comics, even if it still doesn't work amazingly in comics, because those characters get rebooted so often, and like it happens, and there's almost always something in print for a new character, unless you're Gwenpool, rip. But with movies, there's like at least 5 to 10 years before different reboots, you know? Yeah. And so you can't really do that. You can't really have this same structure where things get so interconnected, but it still keeps going for so long without reboots.
Yeah, because the quantity is just so much lower.
Yeah, there's not, and also the fact that you're asking people to go to the movie theater like every 3 months to spend $20 on a ticket, when they could just wait for Disney Plus. It's just not profitable. So it's kind of a bubble that, if it hasn't already bursted, it's kind of in the process of bursting, and that is going to stay the same no matter if Deadpool Wolverine is the biggest movie of the year, which it probably will be if it surpasses Inside Out 2. But
I watched Inside Out 1 the other day.
yeah, had you not seen it before?
Yeah. No.
Oh,
It was alright. Yeah, it was pretty good.
I really like the first Inside Out. I like the
I
second.
like the guy who has the fire in his head. I think he's cool.
Yeah,
Is he in the second one?
he's in the second one. Yeah.
Nice.
I like Inside Out too. It's real tangent about that though. It is ridiculous that movie is so successful. Like, it's a good movie. Like, I'm not upset that it is, but
Yeah.
it's like it is the highest grossing animated movie of all time as of like last week.
Is it?
Yeah, it like
Even more than the SpongeBob movie.
yeah, more than the
Peak of
SpongeBob
cinema,
movie.
which we all know it to be. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just wild to me because, like, last year, the Mario movie became the highest grossing animated movie of all time. And, like, that made sense to me because, like, it's Mario. He's had, like, 30 to 40 years of build up, but without, like, a solid,
Yeah, you've got the kids
movie.
and you've got the Mario fans together. And,
And it's, like, a big thing.
Yeah.
But then Inside Out, the first Inside Out came out, like, 9 years ago. Like, that's enough for maybe, like, people like me to be nostalgic about it, but not, like, the population at large. And I just don't know what happened because, like, as Pixar has been on in terms of box office, has been doing pretty poorly the last like 3 or so years. It's not helped by Disney just like shunting a lot of their products straight onto Disney Plus. But then this one comes out and it's just like their biggest hit they've ever had, and it's wild to me. Like, it's good for them. Like, I'm glad that they're you've got to win, but it's just it's such an anomaly to me.
It's probably because they got the guy with the fire in his head,
Yeah, probably the guy with his fire.
Because he's such a cool little guy, yeah.
And I mean, if you think about it, Mario is red and sometimes shoots fire, so maybe there's a pattern.
Okay, I'm seeing what you're getting at here.
Yeah.
I'm on
You
board.
didn't think about it that way, huh?
No, I didn't.
But yeah. As for Marvel, it's just like, I agree with you that like
I still like this stuff. I just think in terms, the cultural moment is
over.
It's not. People seem to think it can reorient itself and it can trend back upwards. I just don't. I don't see that happening.
Especially because Marvel is like the top dog, or not? I guess the top dog, but is not the underdog anymore. Like they can't build it can't build its fan base the same way it used to, because everyone has an opinion about Marvel now. Like, you're not going to be changing people's
And this
opinions.
is also the reason I don't like the idea of it's been mooted that maybe after Secret Wars or whatever, they're going to do like a reboot and try and do it all over again with new actors or whatever. That's the reason I don't think I don't like that idea at all. And I think that's because you're not going to do it again. It's not going to happen again. Like, I think the cool thing about the MCU, there are downsides to the interconnected structure, but I think the cool thing about it is we've not really seen anything cinematic on this scale before of interconnectivity.
Yeah.
And I think it would be interesting to see how far that could go. Just like from a kind of curiosity point of view.
Yeah. But I think a part of me is thinking like, well, maybe there's a reason why we've never seen something on this scale like this before.
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing more and more of those reasons, but I just think if you get to a certain point and your trick to try and revitalize the brand is to throw out that big connectivity, then I think, like, what's even the point of doing it anymore?
Yeah. Like,
except for obviously the money and stuff.
Like, I feel like if they're going to do that, they should just like fully lean into it and do more stuff like X-Men 97, just like have stuff that's completely disconnected from each other, and like, just make a show that like you can watch without watching any of the other shows.
Yeah.
And
if they're going to kill the MCU, kill the MCU. Don't try and make MCU 2.
Right. Well, that was like decently like X-Men focused for like solid 60% of it. So we're probably justified in calling this a Deadpool and Wolverine episode, even though neither of us have seen it yet.
Maybe. Yeah. Could be.
Although-
Definitely, at the very least, we'll put them in the thumbnail.
Yeah. we'll probably have seen them by the time this episode comes out, though, because you're seeing it tomorrow.
And that's what
seeing
makes it
Monday.
not clickbait.
Right, yeah. Maybe I can even
Yeah.
like just put a little blank space of like, all right, I think that Deadpool Wolverine is.
I liked most of the cameos, but the one I thought was a bit, kind of clumsy was...
And that's our comprehensive thoughts.
Nice.
All right. Well, do you want to move on to comment corner?
Yeah, I see a portal opening up, and if we jump through that, we'll be in...
We jump through that, and with Madonna, the Madonna song playing loudly in the background.
Nice.
You're right fucking shit, you are.
Well, technically that isn't true. They can
I see the British are analyzing our American characters.
I'm sorry, but I'm offended by that content warning. I don't think we should
Sorry,
include
but I'm
him for the
offended
rest
by
of
it.
the
Like,
episode.
he is a political racist. No, they're not racist because I've been watching them for years.
Baby. Channel name checks out.
It's Comment Corner.
So a fun little flipping of the dynamic here is that
Yeah.
normally we have you do the majority of the comments because you get more comments and you're posting videos and stuff. But
Yeah.
because my X-Men video got so much attention, I have a couple that are like themed
Yeah,
around
why
it
don't you
specifically.
spray some comments at me?
Yeah. So here's something that like I'll say. I think that for this comment specifically, I'll put a little spoiler warning for my video. So if you haven't seen the video and you want to see the video and you don't want it to be spoiled at all, I know it seems weird to not spoil a YouTube video, but I recommend it. I'll just look at the timelines in the comments for what the timestamps are for this specific question and just avoid it. Or not this question, this comment. Different section. So Gustavo Supersonic 2001 says, "This was a really nice video. The timeline bit got really annoying and bad though, but it was a nice video."
I tell you what, I think that's proof that you've done a good job of covering the X-Men movies, because, take that comment, replace video with X-Men franchise, and, it scans just as well.
Yeah, I guess it kind of showcases the fear I had a little bit earlier of some people finding it a bit try hard. But like
Yeah.
people were going to find it try hard, I think, no matter what.
Yeah.
Because some people just don't like that kind of stuff. But
Yeah, and that's the thing I've come to realize about YouTube comments is, a video can be anything. And if it gets in front of enough people, there is going to be one of the people watching it is going to hold any position you can think of about the video.
right. But my favorite part about it is that they still liked the video and chose to tell me about it. Or,
They're just kind of negging you a bit.
like the feedback, I guess, is just like you should like stick to like the video essay part rather than like the theatrical. So for those of you who haven't watched and avoided the spoiler warning, I do a whole bit towards the end of the video where I like draft up a conspiracy board and I freak out about the timeline of the X-Men movies not making any sense, and then I sounds so stupid that I'm saying it out loud, but I go back in time. I make a time machine to go back in time and stop myself from ever worrying about the X-Men timeline. And it doesn't work because, bootstrap paradox and all that.
Also, I would venture that getting fucked off at the X-Men movies not making sense is a canon moment for anyone watching the X-Men movies.
Yeah, because like
Is a canon event, yeah.
Like I wanted to make it fun, because like if I'm just like upset at the timeline not making sense, it's just it's just cinema sins after a little bit, It's just like me like making fun of like, oh well, this doesn't make sense. Well, that doesn't make sense. Like
Yeah, you want to give it a bit of pizzazz.
like it can be fun to do that, but like with a level of complaints I have about the timeline not making sense and the fact that I know it really does not matter at the end of the day, I feel like the only way I could really cover that was to do it in this kind of over the top jokey way. And that's not to say that I didn't like doing it this way. I really like doing it this way because it's fun and it means I get to embrace like a more theatrical side that I don't often get to do. But it does also, I guess, if you're a commenter who's only in this video for like the hard analysis, it is kind of a detour for like 20 minutes from that. Or not 20 minutes, it was like 10 minutes. But so I guess I can understand it from that perspective. But like, why do you feel the need to let me know?
Yeah. I can't understand it from that perspective. I think this guy's an idiot and he needs to be told it.
Yeah.
Hey, guy, come and listen to this podcast.
Hey,
You're an idiot.
hey,
We
Gustavo.
hate you. We don't like you.
Gustavo Supersonic.
You should throw your keyboard away, Gustavo. Get out of town.
Get out of town.
A guy's just pulling up with a motorcycle out of nowhere. I don't know
It
what
was
he's
him.
doing here.
It was him.
Yeah.
He was driving across the stage for no exit to be here.
Yeah, Gustavo, get on his bike and just kind of go where the wind takes you. You know, drive until you can see the sun. You know,
Yeah.
rent a motel, get up the next day, Thelma and Louise yourself into a canyon, and land at the bottom, and think, wow, I've survived. What a miracle! I'm gonna see the world in a whole new light. I'm gonna log back onto YouTube.com. I'm gonna find TSD Talks X-Men video, and I'm gonna let him know I'm sorry for being a little bit
Just pull up the
not
ukulele.
so constructive. Yeah.
Do you have another?
What a journey.
Do you have a comment?
I got a comment. So on the topic of X-Men videos we've put out, I put out an X-Men video. I talked about it a bit. For anyone who isn't just starting the episode and skipping right to this point, you've heard me talk about it, so I won't introduce it. But someone said, this is this is Dark Sane 0124. He says, if you skip the Cable and Deadpool books, then your research was not truly extensive. So in that video, the point is, okay, so how accurate are the Deadpool movies? I read all the Deadpool comics, and then I made a video about it. And I give the caveat that I haven't read every comic book Deadpool's ever been in. I've just read all the Deadpool issue or annual things, and that's partially to make it more manageable because it's easier to do that than it is to track down everything, and partially because Jesus fucking Christ, there's a lot of Deadpool team ups, Deadpool and this person, Deadpool and that person.
He's a really
all
popular
different Deadpool, you know, Deadpool and this. Yeah, he's a popular guy. He shows up a
to team
lot.
up with, especially because every like Deadpool team up comic I've ever seen is just like, because I haven't read a lot, but I've seen like them.
Yeah.
Seen panels from they're all basically just him being the quirky and people being annoyed with him. Like it can get tiring after a little bit.
I will grant Darkseid that Cable and Deadpool is an important kind of milestone in the character because it comes between the kind of important Volume 3 and Volume 4 of the character. It's kind of it's an important stepping stone. But here's the other thing. Like I say in the video, I read all of the Deadpool issue whatevers, annual whatevers, but I dipped into the other stuff too. And I dipped into Cable and Deadpool. I didn't read the whole thing front to back, but I got a sense for it because I recognized it was important. And here's the other thing. I even reference Cable and Deadpool in the video. I say something about, for the start of Volume 4, he seems like he's dropped a few IQ points from Cable and Deadpool. So, like, not only is it kind of silly that the bar is being placed that no, you have to have read every Deadpool series ever before you make this video.
Wait, Pillar,
I did touch that one. I checked it out.
Are you telling me? Do you mean to tell
and
me?
I referenced it in the video.
That someone on YouTube commented something before they had watched the whole video? What? This has never
it's
happened.
either that or this is an even wilder possibility. They didn't pay attention the whole time. And I know that's crazy. I know you're hearing me say that and you're thinking,
what?
Pillar of garbage. Why would someone log on to YouTube.com, a video sharing platform, and not watch the video? There's a lot of kooks out there, you know? But this is also... I'd forgotten... a few other comments were like, "Hey, this was fun. You talking about comics? Why don't you talk about comics more? You should talk about comics more." And I have done not quite so focused as this, but I have done videos which have involved comics quite a bit before. Like the Moon Knight video was one, and I've touched comics in some of the Spider-Man videos I've done, and this brought it all back. This is the reason we don't talk comics more, guys, is because you always have the well actually guy. You have him everywhere. But when it comes to a claim you're making about comic books or like anything to do with comic books, the well actually guy isn't just a well actually guy. He's a guy who like
it's like professional
whose whole
job.
sense of self is caught up in knowing more about you than comic books and telling you you're wrong about comic books. Even if, like in the Spider-Man video I did about No Way Home, I had a well actually guy that was saying, "You said this, but actually this. You're an idiot. Shut up." He was wrong. I told him he was wrong. You know, it's This is why if you've ever wondered why more channels that don't talk more about comic books don't,
It's 'cause
you know,
comic
where they
fans are
do
the
kind of
fucking
dip their
worst.
toe in a little bit. Yeah, not all of you guys, but Dark Saint,
Not all, but like, you know, there's
maybe
enough.
take a chill pill. Maybe let me make a Deadpool video without having read front to back everything he's ever been in.
Yeah, and so part of that, and that thing isn't just. It's not just a thing with like Marvel and DC comics either.
No.
Because recently, I mentioned this last episode, but I've been getting into The Boys recently, and The Boys show is really good. I'm really enjoying the show. Here's the thing about the comic: it kind of fucking sucks.
Yeah, I've heard this a lot.
Like I've read little bits of it, and then after that, like I watched the Pointless Hub video afterwards because I just could not deal with it. Because the thing about the comic is that it's everything that people who don't like the show say the show is. It's like it's needlessly edgy, and it's really like racist and weird, and it's just it's a Garth Ennis book. Like you know what Garth Ennis is like.
Yeah.
But there are some people who are so up their own ass about like being of the expert of knowledge is that like if you mention that you don't want to read the comic, but you call yourself a fan of The Boys, people are something like, well, you're not a real fan if you haven't read this comic series that deals psychic damage to everyone who ever touches it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, just leave me alone. I just want to enjoy a show and not have people like jump down my throat about how like there's some real nuances in the different uses of racial slurs in the book that you didn't consider.
And have you noticed the bar for proper fanhood, or I guess in my case, well-researched video? The bar is always precisely where the person is. Like,
Right.
if you've read less, you're a casual who doesn't know what they're talking about and hasn't done enough work. And if you've read more, it's like, oh my god, wow, you're kind of a nerd, bro. What are you doing? You're kind of a nerd.
It's like when I think about this, like, and I think about like if this is like how annoying they are to men who are into it, I can see why. I can see why like there are so many women who just don't think it's worth it to get into comic or superhero stuff at all.
Yeah.
If they have to deal with people like this, and on top of that,
Exactly.
they're dealing with misogyny and shit like that. Like, God, I'm praying for all my female comic book fans.
Yeah, pouring one out for my female homies right now.
Yeah, you guys are like the real soldiers. But yeah, that sounds exactly like the comment that I knew you were going to get that comment as soon as you mentioned that you hadn't read every single like piece of Deadpool literature ever written.
The moment that caveat pops up, it's like, well, 50 guys are going to their keyboards right now. Well, it would be 50 if the video did well. TSD, do you have another X-Men to share?
Oh,
See what
yeah.
I did there?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that like, it's better to have those caveats than to not have those caveats, because even if you get those annoying people, it's more important to have that and not have people like think that you're trying to paint yourself as like an expert on something when that you know things that you don't. I've got a comment that's actually related specifically to Deadpool.
Nice.
So in the video, I mentioned before I start my Deadpool section, I have like a little bit that's like, so I say like, I feel like this is gonna be a bit of an unpopular opinion, but I think these movies are unironically pretty great. And I list my reasoning being like, Deadpool kind of has this reputation of, being like the edgy 14-year-old's favorite superhero, kind of. Like he's he's like a crude, and he like likes chimichangas, and like was a very much a for a while at least, I don't know if he still is now, but he was very much like the epitome of like lol, so random, like 2014 internet humor.
A lot of that came from the Daniel Way run on the books, and if you read those, like those were the ones that was the period where Deadpool kind of went from a Marvel character to being a really popular Marvel character for precisely those reasons and with that demographic. And I don't want to say it's entirely disconnected from that idea people have of Deadpool, but I don't know if it was one artist or a few of them, but like if you read those issues from Volume 4, a lot of the women are drawn in ways that would endear the comic book to a 14-year-old. There's a lot of silicone in those pages, let's say.
Yeah. But
like in a body positive way,
Yeah. Like And like, I don't think there's a problem necessarily with, well, there's a problem with like the thing you just mentioned, but there's a problem with, there's not a problem with like having like a kind of annoying sense of humor as a character. No. But I know that he has that reputation for being that kind of annoying character, and I know some people feel that way about the movies too, even if I don't feel that way. So I include that caveat being like, I know he has this reputation, but I like him anyways, and not just like, because I didn't want to just be like, because here's my thing, in my ranking of those movies, I put Deadpool above a bunch of people's like favorite X-Men movies, and so I was kind of preemptively shielding from that of like, I say like this, don't kill me because I said that Deadpool was I liked Deadpool more than First Class and X2, guys, please.
And my first instinct was to kill you when I heard that. So
yeah, and I know
you did need to put that caveat in there.
Anyway, this comment that I got from this has a lot of like special characters in it, so hopefully I'm not mispronouncing this, but I want to say Milos Dordevic. I probably horrifically mispronounced that, but he said, "What elitist forums do you visit? Deadpool is beloved and considered a top-notch superhero movie and movie in general. This is the first time I'm hearing that Deadpool has a bad reputation, so I'm guessing that it's just self-important, pretentious nerds saying this who just don't like fun."
Well, this is what you get for spending all that time on those forums you're always on, TSD.
Yeah.
I've been saying to you spend too much time on the forums.
That I've been on.
Yeah.
But this comment is so interesting to me because I got another comment that was just like, I thought Deadpool was well liked, which was kind of a similar idea, but it was like more understandable.
That's the kind of normal way to express this thought.
Yeah, but this guy is like so upset about it. And he's upset at me, which is weird. Like he's directing that at me, being like, because I liked the movie.
Yeah,
I don't know, but
no, it's like I imagine being his girlfriend, telling him like, hey Milos, we run out of milk. You turn around and be like, what? We've run out of milk? You know, it's like I don't want to get on that guy's bad side about anything.
Yeah, and another thing is also just that he seemed to be like, here's the thing: the Deadpool movies are generally well liked, but like, that doesn't mean that just because something has like general audience appeal doesn't necessarily mean that like people online like it, you know? Like, you know that.
And you're obviously right in your assessment of the image those films have.
Right. Like,
I know that, the listeners know that.
It's like you not even if there was no reason to think that way about the movies, even if like they're like whatever, I don't think there is no reason. I think there's like some valid reasons to feel that way about them, even if I don't like share those reasons. It's undeniable that that's the reputation they have. And it feels weird to like act as if I'm, you know, as if I came up with that reputation, or it's just because I'm like on like film nerd, you know, film bro sites that are just like, oh, well, I don't care for that lowbrow entertainment. Like, no, that's not where it comes from. Like, there are some people like that, but there's some just like normal people who just don't like Deadpool because they think he's annoying, and like that's totally fine.
Yeah.
It's also just the part is that like that my section, this comment assumes that I'm only talking about the movies, which like I talk about the movies for the most part in the video, but like that segment that he's talking about, that he's responding to, I'm referring to the character in general. Like I'm just referring to Deadpool, like the fictional character, not Deadpool, the movie franchise. Which I guess is a, you know, listening comprehension win. But I just wanted to mention that because I had Daniel Goldhorn look over the script. I had you look over the script as well, but I had Daniel look over it. And he brought up that point, actually, when reading the Deadpool thing, about how he had generally heard that it had a good reputation. And so, because my original section was actually a bit longer, I kind of really went into the parts that I'd heard people didn't like. And he made a point of like, that kind of just sounds like you're just thinking about your own assumptions. And he had a good point. And so I think, so what I did was I shortened that section quite a lot, and I made it more clear that I was talking about general reception, not my own biases going in. So I don't think there's absolutely like no basis for this comment at all, but it's just this guy's so aggressive and like upset about it.
I tell you what I think this guy needs to do.
What?
I think he needs to get on a motorcycle. I think he needs to ride until he sees the sunrise.
Just ride around, ride off a stage, ride behind my window.
Yeah, just keep going. Just keep going until the world kind of clicks into place.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you have any more comments?
I've got one in the chamber I can bring out.
Yeah, like let's do one more and then we'll move on, I think.
All right. Bit of a kind of swerve from talking about Deadpool. This is on the Leopards Ate My Face video, the first period of Bircham maxing we did on my channel, and I wanna bring this up because I got a lot like it.
Yeah.
So this is just one example. So here, Con Coley says, decent video. Thanks. Decent is what I was shooting for. Decent video, but you're 100% wrong about Benny Pepino being a Nazi. Him being Jewish is irrelevant. He's obviously talking about Ben Shapiro, because I make a point in the video to clarify that Ben Shapiro is not a Nazi.
Yeah.
And so I've replied to what I typically do when I get a lot of the same comment is I will reply to a couple of them, and then if anyone's really that bothered, then they will be scrolling through the rest of the comments and they will see I've addressed their point. So I don't reply to all of these, and there have been a lot of these, but I think so. 2 points. One is, regardless of the specific context of this video, I do think there is the argument to be made that saying, oh, he's not a Nazi, he's just even if you go on to say he's doing Nazi-adjacent things, which Ben Shapiro has said some horrible things, and has given a lot of horrible support for Israel's genocide in Gaza. He said there was that tweet he did years ago saying something like Israelis build things, Arabs bomb things, stuff like that, just really dehumanizing, horrible stuff. In a lot of ways, that is analogous to the attitudes and the things the Nazis supported. In a lot of ways, he is Nazi, equivalent, but he's not a Nazi. And given that, Nazism wasn't just genocidal fascism, and I say this in a few of the comments, like, it's not just the idea of let's make an in-group and, let's put ourselves on a war footing, let's exclude, it's not just that idea. Because if you make the abstract,
if you make that distinction and say that that's what Nazism is, you're assuming that Hitler came up with it in the 1930s, when that's not at all true. It's it's been an ideology for centuries, and if not millennia.
What I would say to clarify that slightly is Nazism, in a sense, it was formulated by Hitler and the Nazi Party in Germany, but it didn't come out of nowhere. It's the Kamala Harris coconut tree thing, Nazism was a specific thing, and it became the specific thing that it did, and it killed the specific people that it did, not just Jews, but largely Jews, because of the existing traditions of anti-Semitism and, ethnic hatred and exclusion that had been rampant in Europe for centuries, and that culminated in some ways in the specific material, cultural, historical, economic conditions of Germany at that point, right?
Yeah.
And if we just say that anyone's a Nazi, even if it's not, because obviously Nazism has always been a broad thing, and it encompassed a few things.
I know what your point was, and I think you made a good point, but it was a bit funny that you said, and that's the Nazism thing. It's like the thing with Kamala Harris. It's just that was a bit of a dangerous path to go down.
I was just trying to loop in the zeitgeisty point about context determining,
right? Yeah,
the present. But yeah, good catch. Probably shouldn't have put it that way. But yeah, I think it is worth it to distinguish Nazism as a specific flavor, a specific historically horrible and damaging and disgusting flavor of totalitarianism, of fascism, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's point one. Point two is, the point of this video, I don't know if this guy's watched it, I don't know if the rest of the guys have watched it, but kind of the point of this video is about, well, it's about the way that even if you don't fall completely into one, into the Nazi box or whatever, if you have a few differences, maybe you're not a Nazi. Maybe you share a lot of kind of dehumanizing points and broader political ground with some of the Nazis or their allies. But you're not a Nazi, so you're kind of just you kind of trying to take advantage of where you stand and use some of those tactics. But you think, hey, I'm not a Nazi, so it's fine. The leopards are still going to eat your face, right? That's what that video is.
Like Shapiro.
So
Shapiro gets a lot of anti-Semitic abuse from it. Like, I hate the guy. Don't, just clarifying. I'm not saying like I feel bad for Ben Shapiro, but like it sucks that that's still a thing. Like it's kind of by design. He's kind of doing it to himself by associating with these people so closely, but he's opening himself up to the worst kinds of anti-Semitic abuse by directly putting himself in the view and in the discussion posts of like, actual fucking Nazis who like hate him no matter,
the point of that video is
no matter what he's saying, they'll hate him no matter what because of who he is. Yeah,
like Ben Shapiro isn't a Nazi, but he's made alliances of convenience with the Nazis, and now the Nazis have turned on him. That's what that video is. That's video's point.
Mm-hmm.
So
like the difference is
if you collapse that
crux
distinction,
of the point.
Yeah, exactly. So if you collapse that distinction, not only is it not accurate, not only is it potentially dangerous in the long run, it also would make the point I'm making not make any sense.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get that off my chest because I must have had like 20 or 30 of these comments. And like, guys, I respect the energy, right? Ben Shapiro's a piece of shit. The kind of genocidal Zionism he kind of embodies, absolutely worthy of equating with Nazism in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. Like definitely.
But let's not, let's not put the cart ahead of the horse.
Yeah, like they aren't literally the same, like in like literal, but like there's similarities there that are worth exploring, but also keeping in mind.
And there's a conversation to be had about the way that like fascism and genocidal fascism and totalitarianism, like our culture in the past 70-ish years since World War II it's kind of walled Nazis and Hitler and all these people off as like being a unique kind of thing.
Right.
And it's kind of making them the byword for all of these things, because if the Nazis are these things, then we don't have to think so critically about what our governments are doing, right? Yeah. Or what the things that have happened since. And I think this is the way Nazis have become kind of a byword for fascism as a whole and genocidal fascism or totalitarianism as a whole. I think cases like this are the cases that maybe suggest we should reevaluate, and we should get our heads out of that kind of really simple kind of dichotomy way of thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something that Adams actually talked about in, I don't know if he's talked about it in like one of his videos or not, but he's definitely talked about it in the Discord server, where there's this kind of whitewashing of history in regards to the Nazis. Specifically, people in like high school are taught that Nazis are bad, but they aren't necessarily taught why they're bad or why what happened,
how they came about.
Was bad.
Exactly.
Like, and like they're the bad guys in like Indiana Jones movies and Captain America movies, and like, if there's like a power fantasy movie about killing people in World War II, the people that are being killed are Nazis, because fuck the Nazis.
Yeah, they
right?
become kind of divinely, transcendentally evil, and not people who existed and thought what they did and did what they did because of and existing factors.
That ironically is kind of dehumanizing in a way that I'm not saying that like huge disclaimer. I'm not saying that like TV shows that have people killing Nazis depicted as a good thing is the same thing as what they were doing.
Yeah.
But the Nazis did also use dehumanization to further their own political goals, and I think it's worth thinking about that.
Yeah, we're not both sizing here. We're not saying they're equal.
Not saying they're not at all equal. That not at all. Not saying that.
But dehumanization is something that has effects, and especially when it comes to Nazis and fascists and shit, you got to think about the effects. You got to think about the ways in which you're thinking about these things and what those ways do.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said about the fact that I'm not going to go too in depth with this because I feel like this is going to be a rabbit hole if we do, but there is a lot to be said that the conditions that were in pre-Nazi Germany are similar to how they are in in America currently, there's some really just like shocking similarities. Not saying it's exactly the same. There's a lot more awareness.
Not
about
that
it,
this is the only time since Germany in the 30s
Right.
that those conditions have been visible, but it is one of those times.
and I think it's
one of those
important.
places.
It's important to like make that distinction and know that history so that you can spot those similarities in your own societies and work to try and not have the Nazis come back.
Because the moment you take the Nazis off the pedestal as like just the byword for divinely evil people, the moment you take them off that and put them back into conversation with the world we all live in, then holy shit, it becomes, a lot more possible that something else could take that place, and that's not something we want to do, guys. So
And I think that just to end this off, this point is just the fact that like there are Nazis who are currently alive right now. Like there are people who share the same a shocking amount of them.
Have you been on Twitter recently? Holy shit!
They are like legitimately like full blown, not joking, not being satirical, just card carrying Nazis, and that feel comfortable being that card carrying. And it's kind of, I know people know this, but it's just a bit sobering to really think about that.
Yeah.
And it's something that we have to be important. Anyway, that was a nice and cheery comment.
They should be carrying. The only cards they should be carrying are bricks, because we should throw bricks at their faces.
Anyway.
Well, I'm out of comments.
Yeah. Bad comments. Do you want to move on to the questions to do something a bit more lighthearted?
Yeah, let's go right into the lighthearted questions jingle and, have a bit of fun.
Yeah.
What is your favorite superhero? How long is a piece of string? Where do we go when we die? Why won't my son talk to me anymore? Questions.
All right. I will say, being a little bit self-serving, I did put a little ping in the Discord for people who had seen the video, who, if they had specific questions for me about the X-Men video, because it's kind of been a big thing. I've been talking about it a lot in there, so a lot of people know about it, and so it's kind of a part of the community.
We're at the payoff phase of the TSD X-Men arc. We
Yeah.
have the questions to reflect that.
Yeah, and so I got a couple questions there. I could probably send them to you, and maybe you could.
Yeah, let me
them.
ask them.
Yeah, hold on, let me
I'll
do
be
that
the
real quick.
interviewer. First one is from Not Quite Cool. Due to time travel shenanigans, a la Days of Future Past, you're back to the moment in time before you started this marathon project. What would you do differently?
I think that if I were to do this all again differently, what I would probably do is try to solidify exactly the level of research I want to do for these projects, because there's varying levels of research for each of the movies that I cover, and because I kind of got more into the research towards the end, but towards the beginning I'm more just giving my own thoughts. But especially the New Mutant section is probably the part where I put the most amount of research into it, because the story behind how New Mutants came to be was really interesting to me, and so I wanted to learn more about that. But I feel like I want to set more. I want to set more parameters that account for the fact that I might spend time researching these movies rather than just watching them and then talking about them. Because I felt like when I started the project, I kind of was just of the mindset I'm just going to watch these movies and then I'm going to talk about what I thought while I was watching them. And that's not what ended up happening. That's a big part of the video, but that's not all that I ended up doing. Yeah. So I kind of want to set parameters and really be realistic with myself about the kind of stuff I'm going to do or could do. Because I'm someone who's interested in how movies get made, so I'm going to find myself researching these movies and finding interesting things about them.
So which side of the line would that have fallen on? If you'd gone back to the start, would you have kind of committed yourself to do mini kind of behind the scenes documentary sections in all of them, or would you have told yourself to just kind of stay in your lane, TSD, just talk about the movies?
I think that what I would have done is not so much that I would tell myself to commit to one or the other, but be more aware of the fact that that the documentary behind the scenes stuff was a possibility.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do no matter what, you know? Like, if the story behind a movie isn't interesting to me, I'm not going to talk about it. But, like, because the reason I put this out is because I set, like, a time frame for myself of... My original time frame was to have this finished in June, which did not happen. But part of the reason that didn't happen is because I didn't account for the fact that I was going to be doing stuff other than just watching the movies and then writing down what I thought about the movies. And I want to, like, be more aware of, like, who I am as a video creator, like, what my interests are, and try to give myself some more wiggle room that way. It ended up working out because I still got it out before Deadpool and Wolverine, but, like, I don't want to just rely on luck all the time, you know?
Well, yeah. Maybe the timeline would have been, you know, who knows what the butterfly effect would have been if you'd gone back and done that.
That's true. There might be,
maybe
like...
you would have had a slightly better time making the video.
There might be whole documentaries about... It might be 4 hours long, and I might have, like, whole sections dedicated to just, like, you know, the intricacies of how X-Men, the first X-Men movie came to be or whatever.
Or maybe RFK Jr. would have been the Democratic nominee. We can't know. There's no way of knowing.
We're getting really political this episode.
Oh, yeah.
But which is weird, because the X-Men aren't woke and not political, so...
No, it's just a story about funny guys who can shoot lasers. Where's the politics in that? You know,
I don't know.
Maybe in the year 2568 when we've all got laser vision, sure. But before that point, you know.
I think it's called Woke Men. Woke Men, not X-Men.
It's because of woke. It's all this woke nonsense. You know.
Oh, I have to talk... Wait,
Joe Biden's going.
I have to talk about the line in Dark Phoenix. So...
Oh, yeah?
So, you saw this section, and I don't remember if you saw Dark Phoenix, but there's a line in Dark Phoenix where... like Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique says, like, out of the blue, she says,
should call it the X-Women.
She says, and by the way, all the women are always doing things. You should change the name to X-Women. And like the thing is, like, I don't even hate the concept behind that line. Like, I feel like if you were to use that line, maybe set up like a movie where like Charles has been running the X-Men incompetently, and like it feels like you know, Mystique has been pulling the slack or something like that, and then like have it like this be this big climatic moment of like, yes, fucking get his ass, slay queen, all that stuff, or even have it, but not even that, just have it relate to the conversation they were having at all, because the reason it feels so weird and forced is because Dark Phoenix is not a very good movie, but it's also because it comes out of nowhere, and so it feels it's not
so tacked on. Yeah,
it's not cringe because women feminism. It's not cringe because of that. It's cringe because it gives the same kind of feel as like someone in the middle of like a office work party randomly saying, you know, hashtag me too, when the conversation wasn't related to that at all.
Yeah, I think it's really giving like. It's really giving jerk store. Like there's this episode of Seinfeld where George Costanza, a famous cool guy, out of the blue, like he thinks of something he should have said a while ago. Mm-hmm. Like he thinks of a really good comeback. So like he moves heaven and earth to be able to go to the place where he can then say that comeback because he's thought of it and it's such a good comeback. And then it doesn't really land very well because obviously the context doesn't make much sense and it wasn't that good a thought to begin with. And it's just that, like, clearly some Fox guy has thought, yeah, this is a real this will tickle you guys over the X-Men studio. They should call it the X-Women because the women are always saving the men. And everyone's like, what a good thought, Charlie. This guy's called Charlie. And then like that's been an exec note. Hey guys, remember that funny thing I said last week? You should totally put it in one of these movies. And that's, you know, the person wasn't writing Mystique comes up to Professor X and like talks angrily about the mission or whatever the fuck was happening at that point in the movie. That isn't the point that line came from. It clearly was a previous thought that they needed to put in somewhere. It was like pin the tail on the Charles Xavier.
Yeah, and like the thing is also, it's what annoying to me is that line could have been so good. It could have been so good if like it had the proper context, you know? Because here's the thing about Charles Xavier. He kind of fucking sucks as a leader.
Kind of a hot mess, yeah.
And so
hot, sexy mess.
Like, you know what? Also, you know what? Actually, what could have worked even in Dark Phoenix is like if they had that whole situation and like Charles kept trying to solve the solution on his own in terrible ways, and like Mystique was always saving his ass, or Storm was always saving his ass, or whatever. And then in the big like darkest hour confrontation, they get into a big fight about what to do, and then someone says that line of like, we should call it the X-Women because we do all the fucking work around here, and it could have been good. It's annoying is that it could have been good, but now it gets memed to hell because it's so poorly placed and then used as like ammo from right-wing people about like, this is why woke writing doesn't work, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my tangent about the one line in Dark Phoenix that bothers me so much.
Yeah. Oh, before we get to the next question, this is actually kind of sophisticated on our part. People are going to think this was way more planned, because I have a thought I had previously that I would kind of want to jam in here. Obviously, your video came out like the day or 2 days after Nando v Movies released a kind of similar-ish retrospective on the Fox X-Men movies. And
it's only 40 minutes though, so
Yeah, weak sauce. What are you doing, Nando? But I thought it was really interesting because some of the time, you and him are both saying kind of different things with different takes. You think different things are good and bad about the same points in the same movies, and I can see both of your sides, and I just think it's so cool. Just seeing that really vindicates what you and what he as well. The whole project of like, let's do retrospectives of old movies, because the idea is, a month ago, not seeing your video or his, like the average guy thinks, oh, okay, a consensus has kind of been reached on these old Fox X-Men movies. We kind of know which ones were good, which were bad, blah, blah, blah. But like, the whole idea of going back and doing these deep dives is, that there is new stuff to be seen and new perspectives to be seen, and that, quality is subjective, and there's different things are interesting now and to different people. And I just think like it was so cool, me being like, as a viewer, going and seeing one video creator I like saying these things, and then another video creator I like saying these other things, and seeing the perspectives on both sides, because it just made me feel like this whole let's spend a lot of time making videos about films thing. It just kind of it kind of vindicated that part of me. It's like there is worth in this, because we're still getting different perspectives which are enlightening. Years later. This wasn't like a comment or anything, but someone who watched the video in another Discord server told me that like I had helped them understand something about the movies. What he said was that was that he had never seen X3 or The Last Stand, but he had never understood like why there was so much hatred for it, because all that he had ever heard about it was that it was like a bad adaptation of the comic or something. And like he is kind of, and most like not just Marvel, but most like comic book movies are in some ways bad adaptations of their original source material, because you kind of like to varying degrees, obviously, but like and he didn't really understand why that made it so reviled. But apparently, because of my perspective from someone who doesn't really read the comics, I had focused on so much like the poor messaging and how that gets all mixed up, and the character assassination of people like Magneto into ways that are like disconcerting to the average moviegoer, not just a comic book fan. It helped him like really understand like why people didn't like this movie so much. And he was like, so thank you for helping me get that, because I wasn't going to watch it to find out. Well, that's pretty neat.
But yeah, it's like,
all right, well, another question for you. No, you finish your thought.
Oh, I was just saying, like, it's just what you were saying about how it's cool to see people's perspectives be shifted around and focus on them in different ways and stuff like that.
Yeah. All right, well, so this one's from really cool guy Jamie, closed square bracket, don't know what that means. Real question, please explain how Pymtron connects to the Fox X-Men universe.
You see, I've been thinking about that, and I think it's going to be difficult, but I think the way that you relate it to is that Pymtron is, a cyborg, right? And you know who else is a cyborg? Cable. Cable.
Yeah.
And Cable.
All right.
And Cable is like a time travel or like timeline shifting guy, as
timeline kind of guy, yeah.
As shown in Deadpool 2's time thing, is that the time machine that he uses doesn't just do time travel. It also allows you to shift around on timelines, because he goes back and he kills the Origins Deadpool and also Ryan Reynolds before he goes and does Green Lantern.
Yeah.
And so that must mean is that the way that Pymtron connects to the universe is that Cable, in searching for more of his cyborg brethren, came across Pymtron and brought him into that timeline.
That scans. Yeah, they should do Cabletron. That's my takeaway.
Cabetron, even.
Cabetron. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, you've done some word association there. That'll make some neurons activate in Jamie's head.
Yeah. Thanks, Ein. No, I mean, you're welcome, Ein, is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
You're welcome. You should be thanking me. But I have a couple of other comments. Not comments. I keep getting these sections.
These
confused.
ones are the questions.
I have more I have some more questions that aren't for me, that are more just general. From Maple Syrup, we have: how difficult is it to talk on a podcast for however long you record compared to making videos?
Well, I mean, on the one hand, it's hard because, as you guys have probably heard, if you guys are long-time listeners to the podcast, you'll notice there are moments where, you know, maybe it's become audibly tricky for me to wrap up a train of thought in a concise way, or, you know, maybe here's a crazy idea. Maybe I've got a bit of a stutter. You know, I bet you guys haven't noticed that. You know, yeah, blowing your mind right now. But so on the one hand, it's tricky to do it, to kind of do the physical speaking for this long and have it kind of be good to listen to. But on the other hand, it feels a lot less hard. At least to do the style of podcast we're doing. That's just my kind of knee-jerk reaction to this.
Yeah, I think it is easier to do this as like a performance-wise. Like there's parts that are harder, like coming up with thoughts on the fly, and you know, trying to like kind of censor yourself a little bit, and like trying to, you know, live censor yourself of like, well, this is a public
we're
platform.
supposed to be censoring ourselves.
Yeah. It may surprise you to know, but we wouldn't talk exactly like this if it was a public platform. We're saying all kinds of racial slurs to each other, and we're just like, you know, talking about how
really
much
dropping those bombs.
Yeah. We're talking about our plans to overthrow the government and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
Roblox.
Like there's like a level of performance to it because you are aware of something, but the fact that it is so freeform and casual does also mean that it's a lot easier to, you know, get it done and have bounce off of each other and fill up a couple hours for a little bit. Because I don't know about you, but when I'm reading a script, it's a little bit more tiring because I often have to do things multiple times over to get it right. And that can be a bit repetitive.
Any raw audio file for me will be 2 to 3 times as long as the video.
Yeah.
Before I've started cutting it down. That's the worst part of the process.
Oh God, audio editing. It sucks. It's not a big deal for this podcast because there's not a lot of, you know, flubbed takes or anything you have to edit out. Yeah. But I will say, I think that the speaking process is better because it's, you know, it's probably the same amount of difficulty in terms of like using your voice and speaking a lot, but you're more actively engaged with it than you are like when you're just reading off a script.
Yeah, I get less angry at myself.
Yeah. Because you're not just like, why can't I say that correctly?
I'm saying I'm doing like 10 takes of one line and it's not coming out right, and I'm effing and blinded at myself, you know.
There are some like takes in the finished version of the X-Men video that are like, you know, they're not the best takes ever, but I am so happy. I'm like, I use that take because I tried to say the same line like 10 times this before, but I just kept getting caught on one word. Yeah, it's rough.
And, you know, we're not even talking about the writing, you know?
Oh, yeah, and, like, the writing is a huge part of it.
It's so much harder to get thoughts across concisely than it is to just kind of waffle for 2 hours, you know?
Yeah. And, like, that's the downside of, like, maybe it kind of comes off the same, that's to, you know, essay it to, like, listeners, but, like, it's harder to come up with like a concise way of saying what you're saying and then, you know, relaying it in a good way that flows into the next thought really well. Yeah. And you end up saying things like, but yeah, when you haven't really perfected
Exactly, yeah.
things.
Don't have a great segue. Just chuck a filler phrase in there.
In a video essay, you can't say "so yeah," and that's and yeah, and that's like
anyway,
and anyway, and you know what,
and then you kind of speak over each other a bit, and then you have to wait and pause and figure out.
And then you have to speak over each other a little bit, and then you have to repeat what the other person says.
I thought I was going, but you're going. Yeah.
And like, wait, where are you going?
Crazy times.
What? It's a whole thing. But yeah. See, like now that we've pointed it out, you'll never not stop noticing it.
Yeah, you're having a bad time now, aren't you?
I think that the last question I have is from Honey. If you didn't decide on doing video essays, what else would you be doing on YouTube right now?
Do you want to take this one first? Because you did stuff before video essays, right?
Yeah. So, before I did video essays, I did like commentary, but even before that, I did like sketches and stuff like that. So I'll probably do like a video about this someday where I just detail this all. But I did a bunch of skits and short films on my channel that when I was like 16 and I was bored in COVID, just not doing anything. And so I like drafted up this whole like cinematic universe plan for all these sketches were going to take place in the same universe, and they're all going to lead up to like one big finale. And then I made like a series on it and stuff like that. And I think that, and then after that, I ended up doing like commentary and YouTube reviews, which it seems like is just part of the pipeline into going into video essays. Like if you start out doing commentary and stuff like that, you usually end up doing video essays. But I feel like if I wasn't doing video essays, I probably would be doing something similar to the sketch thing where I make like short films and do stuff like that. I still want to do stuff like that. I still want to make like short films and things like that. But I guess it's kind of just it's not so much a question of like what I would do. It's like what I have done before. I would just do what I did then if I wasn't doing video essays. Yeah. What about you?
I think most of my creative juices would be directed to outlets other than YouTube, but I might be doing more and better of what I do sometimes on the side, which is in case you guys didn't know, I've got a second channel, because this is the Pillar of Garbage podcast. This is my second channel. It's not even really a third channel because it's not just mine. This is our channel, but I do have a second channel that's a real second channel that's called Quone, and that's where I do like really low effort gaming stuff. Not very often, and yeah, it's super low effort, but if I wasn't doing this the whole time, and by this I mean Pillar of Garbage, not the podcast, then I would probably put more time and effort into doing that because, I don't know, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's like, it's super, most of the stuff up there at the moment is like kind of edited Counter-Strike videos, and that's just because that format is made kind of easy for me because I've got like NVIDIA Shadowplay, which just means if you play in a game, something kind of amusing happens, you can just press Alt and F10 and it saves the like the last minute of gameplay. So that makes a lot of people who do gaming content more kind of widely and not just in the format I do. You have to pour over hours and hours of recorded footage and you've got to figure out how to store all that and stuff. But for me, it's just like, oh, okay, it's been a few months since I've done a funny Counter-Strike video. Let me open up my folder and I've got all these funny clips which are really short and manageable, Just knock one out in an afternoon.
Yeah.
I'd be doing more of that, I think. Maybe I'd be streaming. Maybe I'd be a gaming stream with 3 viewers.
Yeah, like, just like be on Twitch being like, thanks for the bits. Thanks for the subs. Yeah. Thanks for the bits.
What are bits anyway?
I don't know. I've never watched. I'm not really big on live streaming. I'm not really big on watching live streams, just because like I just don't like watching something that I can't pause and then come back to. Like I make exceptions for things. Like I'll watch like certain live things if they're like big events or stuff that means a lot to me. But usually I'll just if something is streamed live, I'll often just watch the VOD later. I think the only time I ever watched, I think the longest live stream that I ever watched was, this is going to be a little bit of a deep cut for some people, but the Unis Honest Goodbye stream, which was 12 hours long. I watched that whole thing. as it was airing, because it was like a big deal. Do you know what Unus Annus is?
I have no idea.
Okay, so it was a channel started in 2019 by Markiplier and his friend Ethan from Crank Gameplays, or I guess he's just called Ethan Nestor now. He used to go by Crank Gameplays. But they started a channel called Unus Annus, which, if you don't know, Unus Annus is Latin for 1 year. And the idea was they were going to upload a video on that channel every single day for 1 year, and then at the end of that year,
Jesus.
they were going to delete the entire channel and every single video on it. And they announced this as like the first public thing, and then they did it. They released a video every single day for a year. They were like short, like little fun, like little reaction skits type things. They weren't skits, but they were like, just the format was usually just like Ethan and Mark do like mess around with some kind of weird product or try out some kind of service or something, and they just have fun. The very first video was called Cooking with Sex Toys. And there was like another one where they visited like a hypnotherapist, and there was one where they like went out. There was like a whole week called Camp Unus Annus during the summer where they went out and they did a bunch of camping videos. It was a really, really fun channel, but anyway, they stuck to their word, and they said on the last day that they were going to live stream for 12 hours before they deleted the channel, and they were going to like go through their greatest hits and stuff like that. And it was like shockingly like really emotional when that was happening.
Yeah.
Because you don't expect that from like a silly channel like that, but they like, I think because the whole point of it was supposed to be like an exercise about how death is inevitable and how we like, what would you do if you had 1 year to live? You try to make the most of that time. And it was really cool. It was a really cool thing. And it's too bad because it's gone now. And like, that's the point. But, you know, I don't think there ever will be something like that quite again. And it feels cool to have seen it like happen in real time. There's probably like documentaries or something on YouTube about it, but I completely forgot what the question was. What you guys were what we were talking about.
Was it what we would be doing?
Right. Okay. I think
that's the one we're on.
Yeah. Oh, I brought it up because of the live stream. That's why.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So maybe we'd be live streaming. Yeah.
Yeah, we could be live streaming that. I think I did do a little bit of a live streaming once.
We could do a highlight. Yeah, that's what I'd be doing. I'd be doing a highlight live stream and then deleting my channel.
Yeah, yeah. And then I'd be doing skits and stuff about like,
you
know, whatever. I don't have any more questions saved for us.
All right.
So this was kind of an all over the place episode a little bit, even though our plan was just to have it be focused.
Now you guys are noticing that even more because we lampshaded it.
Yeah, we lampshaded it.
Because we're too goddamn meta for our own good.
Yeah, because lampshading means that it excuses the problems. It does not make it so that people notice.
Yeah. And, you know, I think this gives us 5% more justification to put Deadpool on the thumbnail. So, all's well that ends well?
Yeah. I think that's a good conclusion to go on.
Yeah, all right. Cool. Tie it back into the opening bit. Hey, Joe Biden's waking up from his sleepy time nap. I'm going to go and get him some vanilla soft serve. Or something.
All right. While you do that, I'm going to read out our little memorial that we wrote for Joe, just for something to hear while he, goes back to bed. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode. We post new episodes every other Friday, so don't forget to follow us on whatever platform you're listening to us on. If you're on YouTube, toss us a like if you liked and comment if you had any thoughts. And if you're on any other podcast platform, please leave us a review. And no matter what platform you're on, feel free to share the show with anyone you think might like it. All of those help support the show and ensure future episodes. You can find Pillar on YouTube, Twitter, and Blue Sky Social, all under Pillar of Garbage. He also has a Discord server that should be linked in the description where you can have your own questions on the hashtag podcast Q&A channel read on the pod. You can find me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and all others under TSD Talks. And I actually have an X-Men video now that you can watch. You can watch the X-Men video, please. We also both have Patreon pages that, among other cool perks, allow you to listen to episodes of the show early. Usually they go out a day earlier on my page than they go on Pillar's, because I'm editing all of them. And usually whenever we finish, it usually just goes out whenever I finish the episode. It can kind of range. And with all of that out of the way, I'm TSD Talks.
I'm President Joe Biden, and I approve this mess. That's got awful impression. I'm Pillar of Garbage. Forget the bit.
We both have terrible Joe Biden impressions, and this has been the Pillar of Garbage podcast.
Great seeing you, Jack.